Hello, friends. We are at beautiful Northwestern Medicine Field, the home of the Kane County Cougars.
Do not be alarmed. It's just a couple of guys. Who are these guys? Ray Regina, beloved former mayor of St. Charles, lifetime educator, and Pat Crimmins, a Geneva lawyer, but he's actually okay. From Elgin to Aurora, from Naperville to Elburn, these guys are gonna talk everything. So, here's Pat and Ray.
Along with Pat Crimmins.
Hello, Ray.
Ray Regina here at Northwestern Medicine Field. Our second visit to the Cougars home stadium. The second of 4 this summer.
Yes.
And tonight the Kansas City Monarchs are here for their final game, having beaten the Cougars both Tuesday and Wednesday night. Cougars are in a spin. They've lost 6 out of 10.
Is that Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri?
That's
right?
Kansas City, Kansas. Not to be confused with the Royals. The Monarchs, if you will, and they're in first place in the Western Division.
Yes.
A long history in Kansas City. And when I say that, the name Kansas City Monarchs is a testament to the long-standing team in the Negro Leagues from 1920 to 1965. And Pat, if I rattled off a number of names, my guess is you saw some of these players who did toil in the Negro Leagues and then went to the major leagues. Jackie Robinson, maybe not him.
I didn't see him.
Nor Satchel Paige.
I know the story, though.
But Ernie Banks.
Ernie Banks, I saw it in
and
person.
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays.
And Larry Doby and Eddie Minoso and Roy Campanella.
Yes.
All these are Negro League players who made it to the major leagues. And the Monarchs sent the most players to the major leagues. And they were the longest standing team in the Negro Leagues. Our producer, Paul Stucco, is going to run a video when we finish here on the Negro Leagues and the Kansas City Monarchs. This team here in the American Association has adopted the name Kansas City Monarchs as a tribute to the Negro Leagues. So, with that, we're going to take a small break. And when we return, we will have the TV voice.
The TV voice of the Kane County Cougars, Conor Clingen.
A Notre Dame grad.
Yes.
And a fine man. And we're going to have him talk to us about broadcasting Cougar games. So we'll be back in a minute. You stay tuned.
Bullet Rogan, Jose Mendez, Cool Papa Bell, Willard Brown, Andy Cooper, Hilton Smith, Turkey Stearns, Connie Johnson, Satchel Paige, Jackie Robinson, Ernie Banks, Buck O'Neill. Ball players, each of them, each among the best of their time. But beyond baseball, each was a trailblazer, each a courageous pioneer, each a part of a movement.
The Monarchs were the talk of the town all over the world because they were, first of all, such a great barnstorming team. So even outside the realm of the Negro Leagues, people got to see them in remote towns, in large cities. They were filling up ballparks all over the country. There are some who will say that the Kansas City Monarchs were the New York Yankees of the Negro Leagues. There were others who will say that the Yankees were the Kansas City Monarchs of Major League Baseball. They sent more guys to the major leagues than any other Negro League franchise. They were a model organization, and their impact is still being felt around the country.
We've come so far these 100 years, and yet there are more trails to be blazed. But over these 100 years, some things are still as true and pure as ever. A curveball is still hard to hit. A tie goes to the runner, and courage, heart, and a little grit goes a long way. As the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum celebrates its centennial, honoring the past, paying respect to those trailblazers, and saluting those who ran these bases before us. we invite you to celebrate the legacy of Kansas City baseball for these next 100 years.
At McNally Heating and Cooling, we understand that customer satisfaction starts with arriving at your home on time. Your service technician will apply the same attention to detail and quality workmanship to every job, large or small. We offer upfront, honest pricing, and we'll make sure the job gets done right from start to finish. From furnace and air conditioning service, minor repairs, or total equipment replacement, we do it all. Give us a call or find us online and let the luck of the Irish work for you.
3. And we're back. We're here in the radio television booth, Ray.
Yes.
We're very excited. The perspective is fantastic. Right behind home plate, we're here with Conor Clingen. And you are the radio, you're the number 2 guy here in the booth, right?
That's right, yeah. Joe Brand. So our typical voice of the Cougars, actually down covering the NHL draft right now, where the Hawks just had the number 1 pick. So
nice.
For these 3 games, I'm the number 1
You're
guy.
in charge. You're like Al Haig. I remember that distinctly.
When Joe's here, you do a color commentary?
So when Joe's here, what we do is Joe will do 6 innings of play-by-play, and then I'll do color for those innings, and then I get 3 innings of play-by-play, and he'll do color. So
fantastic.
Yeah, so it works
So
out
if you
well.
could tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, where'd you go to school, high school,
Yeah.
that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So I actually grew up right down the road in Batavia. My parents still live about 10 minutes down the road.
Nice.
Right by Rotola Middle School, if you know where that is. So I went to Batavia Public Schools through 8th grade. Then I switched over, went to Marmion for high school.
Almost as good as Joliet Catholic.
I'm just a St. Charles guy. What do I know?
So that's actually where I got my start with broadcasting. Back when I was in school there, they got started with a company called High School Cube, and I got the opportunity to do some Marmion football and basketball. And then from there, went on to college at Notre Dame and got to continue there. And since I graduated, been doing a lot of freelance work with college sports, Western Michigan, Notre Dame, done some stuff with NBC for hockey. And then came to the Cougars last year, and it's been awesome to be back here at a ballpark I grew up coming to games at.
Sure. How old are you, just so we can get some?
I am 28.
28 years
28.
old. So
He's a young man.
yeah, this ballpark has been here for how long?
It's been here since 1991.
That's right. Yeah.
So the Cougars, and I've told the story many times on the air. When I was 6 years old, I came to a camp here, and Dontrell Willis was one of the coaches. And so I got to meet him, and he taught us the leg kick. It didn't work too well for my baseball career, though. So.
Did you play the game?
I did, yeah. I played a little bit. Actually, I was not very good. I didn't even make the team at
That's
Marmion.
what our research indicated.
That's why I switched to being on the air. But I still love the game, baseball. I do a lot of other sports, but baseball is still my passion and first love when it comes to sports.
So just going back a little bit, you have a broadcasting club at Marmion? Is that what it was?
We did. Yeah, it was the Marmion Broadcasting Club, and we were the first ever. So they've now had it for, I guess, 11 or 12 years. I just had my 10th high school reunion. And
Are you
He's killing me. He's killing me.
Distinguished alum?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I mean, it was great to go back there and talk with some of the monks and some of the teachers, and they had some fond memories of my time there. It seems like their athletics have actually gotten a lot better. They had an Elite 8 run in basketball this year, so that was exciting to see.
That's right.
You talk about your experience here, and looking at your resume, you've got a wide and varied experience, and the fact that you've done baseball, football, and basketball. In fact, you're the voice of the Western Michigan basketball Broncos. Is that correct?
I'm not the voice of the Broncos, no. So that is, they have a radio voice, Robin Hook. What I do for them is their ESPN3 games or ESPN Plus.
That's a voice.
So more of the TV stuff. So I do the basketball there, and I've done some at Notre Dame as well on the women's side, and a couple of men's games as well there. So.
Now you also the pandemic screwed this up, so to speak, but you did have a shot at doing some. You were the lead guy at the Winston-Salem Dash, which is a White Sox single A affiliate.
That's right. Yep. So that was a really cool experience. In 2019, I was down there, and I was the number 2 guy. Actually, oddly enough, the lead guy was another Joe Weil, and did the 2019 season. That year they had Luis Robert, Andrew Vaughn, Nick Madrigal. So that was a lot of fun. It was a blast. My first game I did there, I called an 8th inning home run by Luis Robert. That is still one of the furthest balls I've seen hit. And
he is a wrecking machine.
He really is. He was unbelievable to watch. And so, yeah, going into that 2020 season, Joe, the lead guy there, had left, and I had slid into his job. And then 1 month into it, COVID happened. And so then I made the decision after that, due to some financial situation there, they didn't have a season. And, I would have had to wait 14 or 15 months to get the job back. So I came back to the Chicagoland area. And then Joe actually reached out to me 2 years ago about coming in for just a couple games. And then last year turned into more of a full season opportunity. So
I'll start by going right at the top and asking the question: is being a broadcaster at the major league level your dream?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say major league broadcaster, that's where that first passion was sparked. And, I grew up listening to, I was a Sox fan. Still
you were,
am.
or you still are?
Still am a Sox fan.
How about that when I shake this man's
of
hand
course,
right here?
yeah.
All right.
I don't recall him having any broadcasts.
Well, we'll talk about that. Go ahead.
So, grew up listening to Hawk Harrelson, which is, kind of ironic because he's the opposite. I'm probably what you would, categorize as sort of your cookie cutter play-by-play type of guy. Len Casper played down the middle. Right.
Yes.
Wayne, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was going to bring that up to both Wayne Randazzo and the late Dave Wills cut their teeth here initially. And,
Absolutely.
So that bodes well.
Well, and also, Scott Fransky as well, who's with the Philadelphia
That's right.
Phillies. Right. So 3 major league broadcasters. And then actually Joe, he doesn't like to mention it because he's very humble. Last year he got to do a Chicago White Sox game as well. So it's 4 Cougars broadcasters that have done a major league game and 3 full-time.
And Randazzo now is the lead TV voice of the Angels.
Yeah, he gets to do Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout every night. Talk about a tough job. What do you talk about, right?
Now, you mentioned Hawk, but let's just look at the big spectrum. Do you have, whether they're national broadcaster or local, do you have some announcers that really, you say, they're the top of the hill here?
Yeah, there are quite a few guys. I love Brad Nessler, who's now doing
he's very good
SEC on CBS on Saturdays. I grew up playing the NCAA football video game, and he was the voice of that. And that was probably another thing that brought me a lot of joy. And then, of course, locally, Jason Benetti does a fantastic job. There are so many great ones. It's hard to, even make a list, but also another person that some people in Chicago might know. He was 2 years older than me at Notre Dame, and he's a star at ESPN now, Mike Monaco, and he is just tremendous. And he's a friend of mine and a mentor, so he's somebody that
He's done some White Sox and some Blackhawks, am I correct?
Yeah, White Sox. He actually has done White Sox, Blackhawks, and Bulls.
Okay.
And it's pretty amazing what he's been able to do.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Cougars.
Yes.
Obviously, for our audience that may not be familiar, obviously we're not affiliated anymore right now as it stands, but tell us a little bit about the team. In generalities, is it a fast team, good defense, good pitching? What do we have?
Well, it's been a team that's had great pitching this year. For a lot of the season, they've been tops in the league in ERA. They just dropped to 3rd recently. But they've got a top 3 in the starting rotation that has really been excellent. Jack Fox, if you've been coming to Cougars games for a few years, he's now in his 3rd year with the Cougars. Really charismatic guy, but his talent has developed quite a bit, and he's got an interesting background, actually. Both his dad and his grandfather have worked in Hollywood for a long time. His grandfather's a famous composer, and his dad is a screenwriter who often tunes in as well. And then Weston Muir, a pitcher who actually pitched at St. Charles North High School. He's in his 2nd year with the Cougars, and he's got an ERA that's below 2 on the season, so he's done a fantastic job. And Tyler Beardsley is a new addition who is just a veteran and has pitched really well, sinker baller, pitches to contact. Now, as great as the pitching has been, I think George Samus and everybody with the Cougars, George Samus, our manager, would tell you the hitting has just not been there this year. And, it did show last night. They were shut out. But, yeah, it was a tough one last night for sure. But the thing I would say is that the bats have come along a little bit better overall over the last few weeks. If you came to a Cougars game last year, you probably remember Jimmy Kerrigan. He hit 27 home runs last year. Power hasn't quite been there as much this season, but he's getting the average creeping up there. And then also Jonah Davis is a player that the Cougars added this year who has 9 home runs, so he's shown a lot of power. Cornelius Randolph, also a player who was with the Cougars last year. He was a top 10 pick out of high school. Unfortunately, didn't reach the big leagues, but he has been great here and a great guy in the clubhouse as well. So those are kind of some of the faces, mainly in terms of position players. Also, Josh Allen, I should mention. He's been having a great season, and that's actually our Mr. Kaboom, our fireworks guy.
Mr. Kaboom. We're going to meet him eventually.
We have to do something with Mr.
You have to do an interview with him. I recommend him.
Yes. But Mr. Kaboom. He was in the CIA for years. We can't talk about
I would be, but yeah, Josh Allen, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. He's having a heck of a year. He's actually got right now a 30-game on-base streak, which is the longest in the league this season.
Now, let me ask this: is this a split season? In other words, because I see the Cougars are 4.5 back, but are we getting toward the end here, so to speak, of the first half?
It actually is not. They just do 100 games and they play it straight out, which, I kind of like that. I think it's, it's like old school baseball. And the big thing about the American Association is their slogan is "We play to win."
The general manager, Curtis Hogg, said that at the beginning of the season that we put him on the spot and asked him, you want to be affiliated or not? And what he said was, well, the advantage of this is, just what you said, we play to win as opposed to pitch this guy for 4 innings because the major league team is,
coach him up or whatever.
And I've noticed it too, even just in interacting with fans. Sorry about that. Fans are. It is a popular place to come in before the game.
Place, yeah.
We've noticed though that fans seem to even know the names of players. They don't transition as much. Obviously, when the Cougars were affiliated, you'd have players going up to advanced A or going down to rookie ball or being released a little bit more often. There's not quite as much movement being an independent team. There still is a good amount. I mean, you see players get traded, released, signed, but not as much. And so people walk around the concourse and they know who Jimmy Kerrigan is. He's been here a second year. They know Jack Fox. And I think that's a cool thing. That almost makes it a little bit more what you see with a major league team, where people get to know the players and they kind of learn their stories over the years.
And you find that to be true even on Thirsty Thursday?
Well, on Thirsty Thursday, maybe not as much. I think people are a little more focused on getting their $2 beers and $2 hot dogs and $2 sodas.
Do you go on the road with the team?
So we do not. So we just do home games here for the Cougars. But there are a few teams that are close by. So occasionally we'll go do road games there. They actually play the Chicago Dogs, Gary South Shore Railcats, and then you also have the Milwaukee Milkmen and the
First place now, right?
Yes, the Milkmen. They've been a foe over the past few years. Last year they made it to the championship in this league, and they're consistently a winning team. So the Cougars actually just had a series win over them on the road, though. So that was big.
Wanted to talk a little bit about where people could find you. You have TV and radio, right?
We
tell
do.
us a little bit about that.
Yes. So our primary focus on the broadcast is there's a website called aabaseball.tv. Now, it is a subscription. I want to make that clear. It's $15 a month. So if you're a big Cougars fan, though, I highly recommend it. The great thing is they do archive every game. So you really do get your money's worth. If you're a big fan, you can go back and watch any game, and that's actually from any season. They have the whole 2021 and 2022 seasons archived on there, which is really great. You can go back and watch. But, $15 a month, definitely understand that can be a lot for folks. So what we do is we put a free audio stream of the broadcast on a website called Mixler, and you can find that at mixler.kccougars.com, and you can listen. And we also have on Mixler, we have a live chat feature. So if you ever feel like chiming in on the broadcast, you can do that right on there. Yeah. No, it's great.
No, I've heard you guys on Instagram, doing highlights, home runs, whatever it is.
Yes. We do post highlights on Instagram. TikTok, there's some interesting videos out there as well. Twitter, there's a lot of highlights that you can find, and Facebook as well. And then also, the American Association as a league does a great job of promoting this league. They actually do a daily highlight show of every game in the league, which is really impressive. I mean, you don't see that in affiliated minor league baseball. You don't get a daily highlight show of the whole league. So it's a really cool way for fans to not just keep up with the Cougars, but all the other teams in the league.
You have a favorite call that you've developed here?
Wow.
As an announcer?
Perfect.
You know, I don't have any sort of signature call or anything. I guess if I had a favorite moment, it was actually last year against the Kansas City Monarchs here. They were the defending champions last year. And Kansas City, this is a team that often 𝐂𝐿𝐵, their manager, just has a reputation of getting a lot of former major league players. So this year they have 7 former major leaguers on their roster. And they had more. They just lost a couple, and then they brought in a couple more. But last year the Cougars swept Kansas City at home, and the last game was a comeback in the 8th inning and a dramatic save in the 9th, and that was probably my favorite game here at Kane County.
I asked about the road because this league, while it's predominantly the Midwest, you got a team in Texas, and you got a team in Winnipeg and Canada. Those road trips have to be intriguing.
Yeah, those are some pretty rough trips. Winnipeg is not nearly as bad as Cleburne, Texas, which I believe is a 19-hour bus ride. Thankfully, the Cougars have been very generous about, helping players out occasionally to fly down to Cleburne for that series. And then the league also helps out because instead of doing 2 series down in Texas, they just play them 6 games in a row down there and knock them all out.
I would talk to the producer about kind of a reality show, following the team on the bus for 19 hours.
That would be fun.
That's
I think
quality
so,
television.
absolutely.
My last question, since you're a Notre Dame alum, and I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and Tony Roberts was one of the best back in the day when he announced it. And they've had a string now, including Don Criqui. That's the guy.
That's the guy.
That's the guy. A Notre Dame alum also. But he was terrible. And the guys now, I'm not a big fan. So all I'm saying is that another dream of yours to be the Fighting Irish football announcer?
Boy, wow. I mean, that would be incredible. Paul Burmeister is the current guy, and I think he does a fantastic job. I'll give him all the credit in the world. Former Iowa quarterback, actually. So he knows the game of football well. I did get the opportunity. It was pretty cool this year, not for football, but for basketball. One of Mike Bray's last game, I got to go with the team to Winston-Salem for their game at Wake Forest, and that was a really cool experience. And Coach Bray, he was actually leaving. It was his last year. They had a tough season. So it would have been easy for him to not say anything to me. I was just a fill-in radio guy. But he came up to me, and he asked me about my hometown, everything. I said, Batavia, Illinois. And he goes, I remember going out there in 1992 when I was an assistant at Duke and recruiting a kid named Corey Williams.
Batavia.
And he said, I didn't get him, but I remember everyone talking about Dan Issel and Batavia basketball, and that was just amazing to me that he remembered that story from over 30 years ago about coming to my hometown.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time here. We know you got to prepare for the game.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate the Cougars being a sponsor of ours, and we'll prep them as much as we can because this is just a classic institution. We're going to take a small break, and when we return, Pat and I are going to go down and talk to some people in the stands, namely another one of our sponsors. They got a big crowd here today, Teqworks, and we're going to talk to some of them and talk about how they like the Cougars and about Tech as well.
That's right.
Stay tuned.
Hello, friends. This is Ray Rogina. You face technology challenges every day that threaten to steal business, compromise data, and bring your business down. Without a good partner to help protect from phishing, ransomware, viruses, data breaches, employee turnover, and cybersecurity threats, your business is at risk of losing everything. Teqworks has been the trusted IT partner to Fox Valley businesses for over 20 years, keeping systems secure and providing extraordinary customer service, helping your business grow. Call Teqworks today at 630-482-2227 or visit www.teqworks.com. That's Teqworks with a Q. TEQ Works and see how Teqworks IT service can transform and secure your business. Hello, friends. This is Ray Rogina. I'd like to say a few words about my friends at the Karis Group of Restaurants, one of our sponsors. I've been a frequent guest at all of their fine restaurants for years, one of which is Rookies, which has locations throughout the Fox Valley and beyond. My favorite dish at Rookies is the gyros plate with the 𝐂𝐨𝐮𝐧𝐞 appetizer. Oopa! My wife, she loves the Hall of Fame chicken sandwich. But I can honestly say that I've never had a bad meal there, regardless of whatever I've had to eat. The wings are out of this world, the salads are delicious, great burgers, tacos, all American specialties, and don't forget their pizza. And of course, you can wash this all down with one of their famous Mai Tais. Try them out. St. Charles, Geneva, Elgin, Hoffman Estates, Huntley, and Roselle. RookiesPub.com. I'll see you there. Well, we're back, and guess where we're at? We're in the concourse with one of our sponsors, actually. We've got a whole slew of employees here tonight for the game, and that's Teqworks. And the big honcho for Teqworks, 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐿𝐿 and Matt, you convince all these people that they're Cougar fans?
Absolutely. We're all here in the community. We love it. So,
and where's Matt and I get a shirt?
Oh, we'll get you set up.
All right, you heard that.
That's the only reason I'm doing the podcast.
I'm going to go over here to Sarah and
Stop
ask her.
by the Teqworks office. I got you.
All right. I'm going to go over here to Sarah and ask her a simple question. You're a baseball fan, right? And who do you stick for at the major league level? You're a Cubs fan, all right. But do you enjoy coming to Cougar games? How many times a year do you come to Cougar? 3 or 4. All right. And then, back here, I want this guy's hat. Pick his hat up. Are you a Cougar fan?
Oh, yeah.
But you're at the major league level. I think you're a Sox fan.
Cubs.
Man, it's 2 Cubs in a row.
You're going to get a lot of those here. So.
We're up in Iowa, WGN. What are you going to do?
All right, let's get to a serious question because Pat's going to have some quick technical questions. But you all enjoy working for Teqworks?
Best place I've ever worked.
And are you all, quote, techies?
I would think we would all qualify, yes.
All right, Pat?
All right, Matthew, tell us a little bit about the business to the people that don't know.
Great. So Teqworks, we are a managed or an outsourced IT company geared towards serving the small and medium-sized businesses of the Fox River Valley area. We've been in business since 2002. We just want to help businesses grow within our own community and give back where we can.
Right, and where can we find you on the interweb if we need to get Teqworks to come to our small business?
Best places are pretty much all the social media outlets at Teqworks, TEQWORKS, website, Teqworks.com.
Actually, I have a technical question there.
Oh, geez, we talked about this before, Rick.
Have you ever saved a business from being held hostage?
We absolutely have.
All right, that's an important question.
Yes, we have. Ransomware.
Tell the audience real quick, what happens there? How do you not get too technical? How do you solve it?
Well, you hope you can detect it early. And if you can detect it early, you can stop it. If it gets worse, you have a way to recover them. But basically, a good plan and a good, diligent team to watch out for it and have a plan to recover is really your answer.
So part of your business is preventive before we get to the point where we have to react, right?
I would say the value to us, as well as all of our clients, is the ability to plan and prepare and prevent issues. It's a lot cheaper to handle issues and prevent them than it is to recover.
Yes, indeed.
And one closing question here, and I think a techie always has a position to answer. I'm going to ask you the question here. The Cougars are down 5-0. And if I were to say that you've got the Cougars in 5.5 runs in this game, you get the Cougars in 5.5 runs, would you take the Cougars or the Monarchs?
I'm always a fan of the Cougars, but I'm going to go with Monarchs if it's only 5.5. They're not going to hold them to 0 runs.
All right.
I was told there would be no gambling.
I asked a hypothetical.
Here's what I want to know. Which one of you can take the billboard or the scoreboard hostage and change it particularly?
I thought so. This is my man right here. Does he wear that hat to work? He'll never say.
All right, well, we want to thank everybody from Teqworks, Matthew, and everybody else who's here today. If you get a chance, go online
us and see how they can help your business.
We're going to take a break, and then we're going to head down to Whiskey Acres. We're going to talk on a distillery from DeKalb. Yeah, we'll be right back.
All right, we're back. We're back in the suite because of the noise being overwhelming. There's quality baseball out there. But we're here with the guys from Whiskey Acres, Jamie Walter and Nick Nagali. Got it. From Whiskey Acres. We're going to have a little toast first before we get started with this interview. A toast.
Hey, cheers.
To the great country of the United States of America on its birth.
To Whiskey Acres.
And to Whiskey Acres.
And to the Cougars.
And baseball.
It sounds like something.
Yeah, something good just happened out there. I don't know
just
exactly
a couple of guys.
To just a couple of guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's fantastic. What kind of bourbon is that?
That's our straight, I believe.
That's bonded.
Oh, it's
got the upgrade.
I don't know. He's in the sure no expense.
I don't know what any of that means, but for the officers out there,
It's our bottled and bond bourbon that was a 100 proof, aged probably about 5.5 years.
5 to 6 years.
And won a double gold medal at the San Francisco World Spirit.
Nice.
Well, let's start with asking this question. You've been in DeKalb for a while. You'll give us the number of years you've been there. And I guess a follow-up question would be, for minds that want to know, how difficult would it be to open a distillery in any county in Illinois?
So a touch of background. So out here in DeKalb, my family's been farming there since the late 1930s. I came back to the farm after a brief career practicing law, so I'm a recovering attorney. I've been there now almost 25 years, but it was really in about 2012-13 that my dad and I, my business partner, started thinking about putting in a distillery to add value to some of the grain that we were growing there. And then enter Nick. Nick and I had a relationship in the seed industry, and I got to talking to him one day and knew he liked whiskey, and he was looking for maybe a change in careers. And I said, hey, we got this crazy idea. Do you want to come be a part of it? And so
let me stop you here. The seed industry?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? In short, farmers have to plant seed every year, and they got to buy it from somebody.
Okay.
And I was that guy.
All right.
Right. And for those of your listeners around the area, DeKalb seed corn is kind of the birth of hybrid seed corn, and we were producers and sellers of that seed. And that's kind of an important foundational story for what we're doing in the
Absolutely.
distillery.
That year of corn is all over the place.
Yeah.
So the distillery is how old? How long have you been doing it?
So we started in 2013. First juice came off the still in 2014, and we're about to release our first 7-year-old bourbon next spring, a week from tomorrow.
High demand, huh?
It'll be sold out probably day of release.
What kind of customer? I mean, we have these bourbon connoisseurs all over the area that just seek out these unique bourbons.
We're in a position where everything we create is unique. Number one, we're farm boys from Illinois making whiskey in Illinois, and that's unique. Post-Prohibition, pre-Prohibition, Peoria, Illinois was the distillation capital of the world. Prohibition really screwed things up. The boys in Kentucky kind of ignored the laws a little bit more than we did. We come back to 2013, opening a distillery, really creating something that's unique, that showcases the grain that we grow, and from a flavor standpoint, it's unique. From a geographic location, it's unique. There's not many distilleries, farm distilleries around here that create something that truly showcases every step of the process.
Now, you mentioned Peoria, the focal point for bourbon, and we were talking offline about the fact there's a myth out there that Kentucky, you have to go through Kentucky. Kentucky bourbon is the end-all, be-all.
Bourbon has to be made in the United States. That part is true.
All right.
But it doesn't have to be made in Kentucky. Now, it so happens that a lot of the larger producers are based in Kentucky. But really, as long as it's produced anywhere in the U.S., it has to meet some other standards about percentage of grain and proof and aging and et cetera. But you can produce bourbon in Illinois.
And ask those boys in Kentucky where they get their corn from. It's from Illinois. We like to think we send them our second.
Let's talk a little bit about the process. How many bourbons do you have coming out of the distillery?
Geez, I'd have to think about that a little bit. But there's probably about 7 that we have right now that are available at certain times.
Right.
To be perfectly blunt, probably 4 of those are currently sold out. And so what makes us unique is that we are an estate distillery. So unlike almost any other bourbon producer in the U.S., we grow all of our own grain. And we've done a lot of research on that grain, and I liken it a little bit to wine. So You guys drink wine at all?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so Cabernet Sauvignon grape, the Pinot Noir grape, both red wines, right?
Right.
Both red grapes with different flavors.
Right.
Why?
The grape.
The grape, right? So we started doing research and looking at different varieties of corn. This is back to that corn breeding background, right? With that, we knew that not all corn is the same, and different corns could produce different flavors. Because we grow them on our farm and can keep them stored separately from one another, we started making bourbons with individual variety expressions. So we're one of the first distilleries not only to work with commercial corn varieties, but now we're looking at heirloom corns, blue popcorn, green Oaxacan, bloody butcher. We've even now bred our very own corn that we're in the middle of patenting.
So the corn's the essential ingredient.
Yes, for all bourbon production, it must be at least 51%.
But then the barrel itself, right? It sits in the barrel and ages and you get flavors.
The barrel is a component that goes into bourbon at every distillery. Right. And for us, we look at the barrel as complementary to the corn. It is something that's necessary. It's something that it's table stakes across all of our products. So whether it's a blue popcorn or a bloody butcher or a standard bourbon, they all utilize the same barrel, the same char, the same barrel size. And the only variable that we introduce is the type of corn that we're using. So we can showcase that this corn makes this type of bourbon and this other corn makes that type of bourbon, just like a Pinot makes a certain.
So the variable's the corn, not the barrel.
That's right.
How many different types of corn do you grow out?
Well, in the commercial varieties, we're working with generally 3 in our straight bourbon and our bottled and bond, but we're experimenting with probably almost a dozen every year. We're always looking to improve and find a replacement for something that we can, constantly, right? We're constantly iterating what we're doing and trying to do better and better. So we're probably raising about a dozen, focused on about 3 right now. And then in the specialty lines, we're raising about 5 right now, but we don't raise all of them every year. So some of them we raise every year.
When Jamie and I got into this, we never made drop whiskey before in our lives. Yeah. The gap between wanting to be a distiller and being a distiller is huge because you can't home distill.
It's a felony.
You go to jail, right? And so
I'm here for you.
When we got into it, we were working with a guy named Dave Teqworks, who used to be the master distiller at Maker's Mark. We kind of brought him on as a consultant to help us kind of bridge that gap, to source equipment, to come up with, to validate the ideas of the business plan. And so out the gate, we were anecdotally going, we think that corn matters. And we were kind of putting the farm processes in place to make sure the distillery could showcase that. After a couple of years of Jamie and I doing all of our distilling, we brought a guy named Rob Wallace on our team, who, just like us, had never made a drop of whiskey before in his life, but had a passion, had a palate, and had a work ethic. And we taught him what we knew. And shortly after he kind of took the keys from us to run the place, he asked us, can we help him go to school? And he enrolled himself at Heriot-Watt University out of Edinburgh, Scotland. It's the Harvard of distilling, and got his master's in distillation fermentation sciences. And he wrote his master's thesis on how varietals of corn affect the flavor of whiskey. So he took what we had as a concept and published work on it, and validated what we thought, and in some cases told us we're wrong and made us do things differently. Right. But we sort of cohabitate very well with the farm side of things, the distillery side of things, to make sure they're complementary each other to make the absolute best product.
Now, to pass earlier question, you've been around now almost a decade, and you obviously have a presence here in the ballpark, right downstairs, Whiskey Acres stand, and fans can come around and try one of these lemonades.
There was a throng.
Or an old fashioned, or whatever. Where can they get your whiskey at, though, in retail establishments?
We're in the Fox Valley?
Yes.
Go to Binny's, 𝐂𝐨𝐿𝐴𝐻, Safeway, Royal Wren, Hammers, Beer Cellar. We're on our website, whiskeyacres.com/locations.
whiskeyacres.com/locations.
Put in your zip code, takes you to those locations.
Very nice.
So do you guys distribute your own bourbon?
So the distribution in Illinois is kind of it's a complicated process.
It certainly is.
Which we won't get into a lot, but we have some limited self-distribution. Primarily, we work through a third-party distributor, RNDC, and they work with placing us in about 700 locations throughout Illinois. And besides those retail partners, you can also find us in a lot of bars and restaurants. Just ask for us by name, and we're featured in them.
Now, my wife grew up in Iowa, and she was in the corn. Detasseling was a job.
Yeah.
You guys need detasseling?
Generally, no, with the exception of, I mentioned before, that we've created our new hybrid that we're in the process of patenting. That corn because we cross two different varieties, we have to turn every plant from both male and female to one or the other. So we do have to detassel.
Right. Turn this out for the kids because there's cross-pollination.
That's
which
right.
is a little bit
Sex in the cornfield.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
So there is some detasseling.
A little bit.
Because there is some.
Yeah. And it's very manual.
Yes.
So
How many employees do you have?
Currently, I think we have about 33, 34 employees. So the majority of those run our tasting room and our visitor center. So every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we are open to the public out of the distillery. So you can come out and listen to live music. There's food trucks. You
Tasting
can
room?
Take a tour. Yeah, large tasting room, retail space. I mean, we have a huge whiskey garden out there. So
yes.
Both indoor, air-conditioned space.
Little area for a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Big area.
Big area for a podcast. So we get a couple thousand visitors a month on the weekends that come out and see us. And it's a nice place to be.
Is there food?
We have food trucks.
Food trucks, nice.
Where's the nearest distillery from your place? In other words, your nearest competitor as far as just the distillery here in Illinois.
I won't use the word competitors.
Yeah, it's a close fraternity.
We think that the rising tide raises all ships when it comes to local.
There used to be one in Geneva. There no longer is. There is one in Rochelle. There's one in Rockford. Yeah, there's a number of them around. I think there's 38, 40.
I'd like to put in perspective there's about 50 distilleries in the state of Illinois. Whiskey Acres is about the top quarter in terms of production. We make about 500 barrels a year. Wow. Heaven Hill in Kentucky makes 1,500 barrels a day, with production expansion plans this summer to increase that by 50%.
But the quality.
They make a lot. We make a lot. It's very good.
Have you ever gone to Kentucky, to the distilleries, just to get ideas?
Absolutely. So, again, Nick mentioned Dave Pickerell, the former master distiller at Maker's Mark. We had the privilege to get to meet some of the Samuelson family with Makers. They were very generous with their time. They have a deep respect for Dave. Dave has since passed, but we spent quite a bit of time there. We've certainly spent time, both of us, in the Bourbon Trail. And then outside of Kentucky, as Nick mentioned, that we cooperate with each other. It's a pretty small fraternity, and we were very fortunate to have a lot of other distilleries give us their time and expertise at no charge.
Right.
And they just asked us in return to pass that along to the next guy, and we've tried to do that.
I would be remiss if I did not ask this question.
Of them?
They're in the shadow of your alma mater, Northern Illinois University. Might you get a few of the 21 and older college boys and girls come over and partake in a little bourbon on the weekends?
We do, but we're not so much a college crowd. However, we do certainly have college students that especially bring family out, when they're out for visiting. And there is kind of can we talk about the project? Sure. I'll let Nick talk about it. We have a very interesting NIU project that we're just about to come out with.
This is a kind of I'm spilling the beans before I should, but I'll spill.
Better look at
I'm just a couple of guys.
I'm sorry. NIU Athletic Department, I'm sorry, but you'll thank me later. The last Friday in August, we're going to do a release of an NIU branded bottle. So it'll be the red and black. I will have instead of our Whiskey Acres logo on the back, it'll be the Husky. And we'll have the NIU coaches on site signing bottles. A significant portion of the proceeds will go straight back to NIU.
Made by the locals for the locals.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. As an alum, I appreciate it.
And it's got the nice Husky on the back on the bottle. It's a red bottle. It really is quite striking.
We like to think we serve the NIU alumni or the current students and parents,
right,
as opposed to the current student population.
Well, I understand that.
It's a premium product, right? It's a premium.
Let's go back to that first question I asked you, and that is, from the time you applied until the time you opened, little consternation going through all the red tape.
It was almost 2 years.
2 years.
Jamie dealt with the local stuff, and I dealt with the state and federal stuff.
Yeah, so
I'm surprised he even has this much hair left.
Yeah, as being a legal guy, I dealt with all the local stuff, and we had some challenges in the county zoning. There were a particular county administrator that we have since helped get a promotion to Wisconsin. He didn't see what we were doing as agriculture. We were zoned for agriculture, and it took us a lot of time and effort to go around him. and convinced the county board that what we were doing was ag. Unanimously, after much work, they approved it.
Weren't you ag before the distillery?
Of course. Yeah. Of course. But
are we feeding hogs or feeding geese? Is it different?
Buy a hog and put it in.
Yeah. You know, to me, you know, you're milling grain, you're feeding it to a single cell animal in the form of yeast.
Right.
You're making a product for human consumption. The waste product gets spread on the field.
Right.
It's almost the same.
This goes to show you what good quality county government can do to the local businessman.
Or not.
I'm sure it's much better in St. Charles.
Kane County and St. Charles is a very interesting
the less we say.
Family. Very interesting, and I'll leave it at that.
The good news is today, I think we've proven ourselves, and we have a very good relationship.
You know, your question about, you know, do we serve the college crowd? I think that was one of the bigger fears. Is, you know, we're not a bar to come finish your night at, and we're a place to come start your evening.
As mayor of liquor commissioner of St. Charles, the fact of the matter is, at 21, you can drink alcohol, and we trust that the purveyors of alcohol will make sure they enforce the law, and so that's not a problem. I don't see that as a problem if a 21-year-old college kid comes to your distillery and wants to enjoy a bourbon or two. That's very legal.
But by design, we try less to be a bar, and more to be like a winery, a destination.
Right.
So you come out, and you spend time with us, and hopefully, not only do you have a cocktail, but you find something you like, and you buy a bottle or two to take it home and share it with friends and family.
We're never open past 8:30.
Yeah.
We want your first dollar, not your last dollar. We don't want to help mop up the floor.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah. All right. Well, we want to certainly thank both of you, Jamie and Nick, for that was a good idea to come to the suite. Very quiet up here, and serene, and everybody's
there's just not refills.
Well, but we want to thank you for the treat we had here.
Yes.
And so it's whiskeyacres.com, and then of course they want to get location.
All the other things.
That's all on the website. Yep. And so you want to make sure that you go to that website to try some interesting bourbons here locally. You don't have to go to Kentucky to enjoy bourbon, right, Ben?
And I would say this, that maybe you guys, after this podcast, talk to our producer about getting your own podcast.
Yeah. It's been brought up before, so you never know. That's like a little bit out of our wheelhouse, so
a couple of guys talking bourbon? Oh, that sounds great.
We need extra things to do. That's really what it is.
That would be great. That would be great.
And by the way, I'm a Kane County guy. I live a mile and a half north of here in Batavia.
So fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Can you give me a ride home?
I was going to call for my own.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a small break, and when we return, Pat and I will have some closing comments. Stay tuned.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Hello, friends. This is Ray Rogina. Hey, the Kane County Cougars are back for the summer. The best family entertainment around features sunshine, baseball, and fireworks through Labor Day. With great food, entertainment, giveaways, and running the bases after every game, there's something for everyone at a Cougars game. And Thirsty Thursdays feature $2 beer, pop, and hot dogs. And on Sunday, a $15 ticket gets you $15 right back in concession cash to spend at the ballpark. What a deal for you baseball foodies. Come visit us at beautiful Northwestern Medicine Field this summer for your dose of sunshine, baseball, and fireworks. And make your family memories today. All right, we're back to wrap things up, and it's been a nice night. We've had some great guests. We've enjoyed the interviews.
Wonderful experience, as always, Ray. Can't wait to come back.
We got 2 more to do.
2 more of these throughout the season.
Are you going to sing a song here to close that thing out?
The summer wind would be perfect, but there's no wind here at all. I feel as though we're in the middle of a jungle somewhere.
All right, let's wrap things up with a couple points here. First of all, you know the drill. Any information about tickets, scheduling, and so on, kccougars.com is the place to go for that. But I want to remind you that this weekend coming up, starting tomorrow night, Friday, we got fireworks galore all weekend as your favorite visitor, the Gary Railcats, come to town.
Right. And I enjoy celebrating my favorite country, America.
Sunday in particular will be a granddaddy of them all as far as fireworks are concerned. So you'll want to take advantage of that. And remember, Sunday is $15 voucher day.
Right.
You buy a box seater reserved, for $15, you get it back in concessions. What a deal.
That's a fantastic deal. I can't imagine a better deal. Let's talk about the season ahead.
The Cougars have a very limited July schedule. In fact, they are only home for 6 games. July 11th to the 13th, they'll be here against, again, your favorite, the Gary Railcats. And then July 14th to 16th, we have the Sioux Falls Canaries roaming into town, flying into town, perhaps.
That's right.
But so it's a limited July schedule. That includes a Thursday, and it includes another Sunday. So you want to make sure that you get out here, enjoy this fine activity, family fun at the old ballpark. So, for our choreographer,
cinematographer,
and cinematographer,
yes,
in his body blue shirt,
body,
and for our producer, our crack producer, Paul Stuckel,
yes,
and for my partner Pat Crimmins.
Honor to be here.
This is Ray Rogina, wishing you all a pleasant holiday. And I don't need to remind you that during the holiday, you need to be safe. Don't get involved in trouble. From the ballpark, Ray and Pat, so long, everyone.
Take care.